Welcome to the Book Review Podcast. Today we're diving into a classic that, well, let's be honest, it's kind of a self-help OG. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, this book, published back in 1937, still kicking around, and for good reason, I think.
Right. Almost a century old, but it really gets into the nuts and bolts of how we as humans connect. Or sometimes, don't connect.
Totally. It's less about tricks and more about genuinely understanding people.
And that's what we're here to explore in this deep dive. We're going to break down some of Carnegie's most powerful principles, how to handle those tricky interpersonal situations, build relationships, get people on board with your ideas, and even step into a leadership role more effectively.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's start right at the beginning with the foundational techniques Carnegie lays out.
All right, well, right off the bat, the first principle is pretty direct. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Carnegie argues that criticism, well, it just doesn't work. It backfires.
In what way?
It puts people on the defensive. Think about it. When someone criticizes you, do you suddenly think, oh, you're right, let me change my ways?
Not really. I usually want to explain myself, maybe even argue back a bit. It definitely doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy and open to feedback.
Exactly. And Carnegie even uses some pretty intense examples. He talks about Killer Crowley, a criminal hardcore who right up until his death thought he was a good guy. Had a kind heart, he said. It shows how deeply ingrained our self-justification is.
Oh yeah, I remember that example. It's like no matter how bad our actions might seem to others, we find a way to justify them in our own heads.
And criticism just digs that defensive trench even deeper. It doesn't lead to real change.
Makes sense. And I remember the example of the safety coordinator trying to get workers to wear hard hats, just laying down the law, telling them they had to. It sounds like it just created this atmosphere of resentment and didn't actually improve safety.
Yeah, because it completely ignores the human element. People need to feel understood, not just ordered around. And this need to avoid condemnation, it runs deep.
Right, like deeper than just not liking to be told we're wrong. It's almost primal.
It really is.
Yeah.
As Hansel put it, that dread of condemnation is a powerful force.
Okay, then there's Lincoln. His evolution in terms of how he dealt with criticism is fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. You see it in his early letters, sharp, biting critiques. Then you see him as president, struggling with that same impulse but choosing restraint. That unsent letter to General Meade after Gettysburg, it's a powerful example.
Yeah, it's like he was aware of the damage those words could do, even if he felt justified. What about the story with Hoover, the president, and that mechanic?
Ah, yes. Instead of zeroing in on the mistake, Hoover expressed confidence in the mechanic. Powerful, right. It shows an understanding of how to motivate someone positively.
It appeals to their desire to be seen as competent, to live up to that expectation.
Exactly. And this leads right into the second fundamental principle, appreciate people. Carnegie argues that everyone craves to feel important. It's a core human need.
Makes sense. We all like to feel valued, right? Like our contributions matter.
More than just like it, we need it. Think about that statistic Carnegie mentions, the one about mental illness being more prevalent than all other diseases combined. It's a sobering thought. That unmet need for importance can manifest in some pretty serious ways.
Wow, yeah. And you see it in everyday life, too, like the father with those hog-winning ribbons. It wasn't just about the hogs, it was about being recognized.
Right. And it's not just about ego. Appreciation, when it's genuine, helps people flourish. Look at Charles Schwab. His ability to appreciate people, make them feel valued, it was considered key to his success. It unlocked people's potential.
A sharp contrast to the story about the farm woman serving the hay, right? No appreciation there.
Yeah, and then the runaway wives study, the top reason cited, lack of appreciation. That's a huge red flag in any relationship.
So it's not just about saying nice things, it's got to be real.
Exactly. Carnegie is careful to distinguish sincere appreciation from flattery. Flattery is cheap, easy to spot, and it often backfires.
Especially with people who are, a bit more discerning. They see right through it.
They do. Genuine appreciation, on the other hand, that's what Carnegie calls the legal tender that all souls enjoy. There's a quote from Emerson that I love. Every man I meet is my superior in some way. In that, I learn of him.
It's a shift in mindset, isn't it? To actively look for the good, the valuable in everyone you encounter.
It really is. And then we have the third fundamental principle, which is about arousing an eager want in others. Not manipulating, but understanding their desires. Like that example with the kids and smoking. You don't just tell them it's bad, you tie it to something they care about. like being a good athlete.
That makes it personal. They have a reason to buy in. It's not just an arbitrary rule.
And remember the story of Emerson and the calf. They're trying to force the calf, but the housemaid gets it. She understands the calf wants to suckle, and she uses that to guide it.
It's about working with someone's natural inclinations, not against them. Understanding their motivation.
Absolutely. And Andrew Carnegie, well, he was a master at this. He built an empire, in part because he knew how to tap in to people's wants, like that negotiation with the hotel manager. Yeah. He framed his argument around the manager's desire for profit, not just his own desire for lower rent.
So smart. It's a win-win situation. The opposite of that John Doe letter, where the writer was completely oblivious to the recipient's wants and needs.
Oh, that letter, a classic example of what not to do.
And Carnegie offers some really practical examples. Barbara Anderson tailoring her job application, those successful insurance salespeople. Even the example with the little boy who wanted to stop wetting the bed. It's about connecting the desired behavior with something he really wants, those pajamas.
And the little girl wanting to make the cereal, feeling important doing it herself. It's about tapping into those inherent desires, understanding what makes people tick.
Okay, let's move on to the 6 ways to make people like you. The first one's simple, but it's often overlooked. Become genuinely interested in other people. That word, genuinely, feels important.
It's crucial. Think about those conversations where the other person's eyes are glued to their phone. You feel it, right? The lack of interest, the disconnect.
Totally. You feel like you're talking to a wall.
Carnegie uses the example of his dog, Tippy, making friends by being genuinely interested. That simple act of attention, of caring about what someone has to say, it goes a long way.
We all want to feel heard and seen, right? Like our experiences matter.
Absolutely. Think about Howard Thurston, the magician. He attributed his success not just to his tricks, but to his genuine interest in his audience. And the story of Edward Sykes Jr. retaining that drugstore account by showing interest in the clerks, it shows that everyone, from the CEO to the cashier, craves that connection.
It's about treating people like individuals, not just cogs in a machine.
And then those ulcers, busy, important people, but they responded to that genuine interest in their work.
Yeah, and that letter from Madeline Rosedale, praising the bank staff, mentioning the teller who was worried about her sick mother, it's like a ripple effect, that genuine care.
And C.M. Naffel Jr., going from criticizing the chain store executive to genuinely seeking his expertise, it's a powerful shift from confrontation to collaboration.
Okay, principle number 2, smile. Something so simple, yet it can have such a big impact.
A smile can speak volumes, can't it?
Yeah.
It says, I'm happy to see you, you're welcome here, let's connect. Think about how we instinctively smile at babies and how they light up in response. It's hardwired into us.
Yeah, that story about the baby's smile transforming the atmosphere of that doctor's waiting room is a great example.
Exactly. And it's got to be genuine, no forced grins.
Yeah.
Professor McConnell's research suggests that smiling individuals are actually more effective in various roles. And Robert Cryer, finding the right PhD candidate because of that warm tone of voice, likely reflecting a smile, it shows how far that positivity can reach.
And the stockbroker who turned his career around just by smiling at everyone. It's amazing how such a small change can have such a ripple effect.
Carnegie talks about the sovereign, voluntary path to cheerfulness. Act as if you are cheerful, and it can actually become your reality. Happiness, it's not always about external circumstances.
It's about choosing your attitude. And then the story of Senora Maria Gonzalez making friends just by smiling and greeting people. It's about being proactive in your friendliness.
A smile, it costs nothing, but it can create so much goodwill.
Okay, principle number 3, names. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Jim Farley, a master of remembering names.
He understood that power, didn't he? To make someone feel seen, acknowledged.
And on the flip side, that incident at the Parisian public speaking course, the guy who got so upset because his name was misspelled, it shows how much those seemingly small details matter.
We all want to be recognized as individuals. Even Andrew Carnegie, back when he was a kid, he used the power of names to his advantage.
Yeah, and the way he resolved that conflict with Pullman by naming the sleeping cars after him, appealing to that desire for recognition, for a legacy.
Brilliant, isn't it? And you see it with those buildings named after donors. It's that same psychological principle at play. We all want to feel like our contributions matter, that we've made a mark.
Now, remembering names, it takes effort.
It does. But Carnegie points out that busy, important people like FDR, They made that effort. They understood it was worth it. Even Napoleon had a system for memorizing names.
That story about Ken Nottingham in the company cafeteria transforming the sandwich maker's demeanor just by using her name, it's a great everyday example of its power.
Simple, yet impactful. Okay, moving on to principle number 4. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. That story about the woman at the bridge party who thought Carnegie was a great conversationalist even though he barely spoke, it really speaks to the power of listening.
It's like the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly. And Charles W. Eliot, he talked about the flattery of exclusive attention. That feeling of being truly heard, it's powerful.
And think about the troubleshooter who won over that difficult customer just by listening to him for hours. And Mr. Detmer resolving that debt dispute by hearing the customer side of the story. Sometimes all people really want is to be understood.
And then there's Edward Bach, who basically educated himself by becoming a good listener. He'd ask these famous people about their lives, their experiences, and in turn, he gained access to a wealth of knowledge and wisdom.
The key takeaway is that people are far more interested in themselves and their own lives than they are in yours.
So true. Now let's dive into part 3, how to win people to your way of thinking. The first principle here is often a tough one to swallow. You can't win an argument.
Ooh, yeah, I can see how that one might rub some people the wrong way.
It's a challenge, isn't it? To let go of that need to be right, to win the debate. Carnegie talks about that London banquet experience where he realized arguing with someone who's dead set on their position is a losing battle.
It just entrenches both sides.
And then there are those suggestions from bits and pieces, those tips for preventing a disagreement from turning into a full-blown argument, welcoming disagreement, controlling your temper, listening first, finding common ground. They're all about de-escalating the situation.
That car dealership manager is a great example. He admitted the dealership's mistakes, diffused the customer's anger. Instead of arguing, he found a way to connect and find a solution.
He neutralized the situation. And the Supreme Court Justice incident, it's a good reminder that even if you're right, telling someone they're wrong is rarely the best strategy.
Especially if it damages their ego or makes them feel foolish.
Most people, they're not driven solely by logic. It's emotions, biases, preconceived notions.
So appealing to reason alone often isn't enough.
And then you have Ben Franklin consciously choosing to avoid direct contradiction, using more modest language. It's a subtle shift, but it can make a big difference.
Yeah, Mr. Crowley, his business improved after he stopped arguing with customers. It's about finding common ground, building bridges instead of walls.
And King Oktoy's ancient advice, be diplomatic. It will help you gain your point. It's a timeless wisdom.
Okay, so principle number 2 builds on that. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, you're wrong. It's about validating their perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
Right. And then principle number 3, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Carnegie's own experience with the Bulldog Rex and the park ranger, admitting his mistake right away, is a great example of this.
It's disarming, isn't it? It takes the wind out of the other person's sails.
And the account adjuster, who diffused tense situations by readily admitting fault, the father who reconciled with his son by acknowledging he was wrong, it shows the power of humility.
Elbert Hubbard, the way he handled criticism, agreeing with the reader even if he didn't, it's smart. It takes the sting out of the critique and invites further discussion.
There's a proverb that captures this perfectly. By fighting, you never get enough, but by yielding, you get more than you expected.
Okay, principle number 4. Begin in a friendly way. That Woodrow Wilson quote, "If you come at me with your fists doubled, I think I can promise you that mine will double as fast as yours. But if you come to me and say, let us sit down and take counsel together, and if we differ from each other, understand why it is that we differ, we will presently find that we are not so far apart after all." It's about setting the tone for collaboration, not confrontation.
Beautifully put. And John D. Rockefeller Jr., his speech to the striking workers, filled with friendliness and a genuine desire to understand their grievances, it turned a potentially explosive situation into a productive dialogue.
Yeah, and then the tenant who got his rent lowered by being friendly and complimentary to the landlord, and Dean Woodcock handling that situation with the photographer, explaining the situation calmly and respectfully. It shows how a friendly approach can go a long way.
It really can. Principle number 5 is about getting the other person saying yes, yes, right from the start. Socrates' method, asking leading questions to build agreement.
Mr. Alsop's job interview strategy is a great example of this. He kept getting the interviewer to agree with him, leading him towards that yes for the job offer.
And principle number 6 is let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Again, it's about the power of listening, allowing the other person to express themselves fully.
The example of Dick, the prospective employee, convincing himself he wanted the job while the interviewer just listened. It's fascinating. It's like he talked himself into it.
Principle number 7 is, let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. People are more invested in ideas they feel they own.
It's like we said before, appealing to their desire to feel important, to contribute.
Dale cites his strategy with his sales teams as a good example, and Lao Tzu's wisdom. The reason why rivers and seas receive the homage of 100 mountain streams is that they keep below them. It's about leading by empowering others.
Principle number 8, this one's huge. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Empathy. It's the foundation of strong relationships.
It is. Think about Sam Douglas and his wife, how their relationship improved once he started to understand her passion for gardening. And the father avoiding conflict with his sons about cleaning the car by understanding their perspective.
And Elizabeth Novak delaying that negative action from the finance company by apologizing and explaining her situation from their point of view.
It's about putting yourself in their shoes, seeing the situation through their eyes.
Principle number 9, be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Carnegie calls this the magic phrase to stop arguments.
It's about acknowledging their feelings, validating their perspective. Carnegie's own apology to the colonial dame and Mr. Mangum getting the escalator repaired, they're both examples of how a little empathy can go a long way in diffusing tension.
And Saul Hurok, his handling of the temperamental opera singer Chaliapin, again, it's about understanding where the other person's coming from.
Principle number 10, appeal to the nobler motives. J. Howard Lucas collecting that past due bill by appealing to the customer's sense of fairness. It's a powerful motivator.
Okay, principle number 11, dramatize your ideas. It's not enough to just state a truth. It needs to be vivid, engaging, like that rat poison window display.
Right, make it memorable. And John M. Bess getting that appointment by sending that personalized, self-addressed envelope.
The cold cream salesperson, too, presenting those competitive products side by side. It's about making your point in a way that grabs attention.
And finally, principle number 12, throw down a challenge. Charles Schwab using competition to motivate his team. Theodore Roosevelt, his political career being saved by a challenge.
It's about appealing to people's desire to achieve, to prove themselves.
Even Abraham Lincoln's letter to General Hooker, amidst the criticism, there's that element of challenge, that belief in Hooker's potential.
Okay, let's move on to the final section. Be a leader. How to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. This one's all about leadership. The first principle is begin with praise and honest appreciation. Think about how Charles Schwab dealt with those employees who were smoking. A compliment, a small gift, and an appeal to their better nature.
It's about setting a positive tone, building rapport. And a crucial point here, avoid using the word but after praise.
Yeah, it negates the positive. It's like you're doing great, but...
Instead, use and to link the positive feedback with areas for improvement.
Like, you're doing great, and I know you have the potential to be even better.
Exactly. And that school principal, addressing the teacher's tardiness by praising their leadership and then setting a positive example. It's a subtle but effective approach.
Okay, principle number 2. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Lyman Abbott's wife, suggesting ways to improve his sermon without directly criticizing the content. That's a great example.
It's about being tactful, preserving the other person's ego.
Principle number 3 is talk about your own mistakes first. Carnegie reflecting on his own inexperience before criticizing his young secretary.
It shows humility, it levels the playing field.
Yeah, the contrast with von Bülow's mistake with Kaiser Wilhelm, not acknowledging his own shortcomings, it's a good lesson.
It really underscores the power of humility, of leading by example.
Okay, principle number 4, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. It's about empowering people, giving them ownership of the solution.
Owen D. Young was known for this approach. He'd guide people to the answer through skillful questioning.
And principle number 5 is let the other person save face. It's about preserving their dignity, especially in difficult situations.
Marshall Granger's handling of those seasonal layoffs is a good example.
Okay, principle number 6. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. It's like those dog trainers who use positive reinforcement.
Exactly. Pete Barlow's method of training dogs, focusing on rewarding good behavior, it's a powerful illustration of this.
And think about the impact of praise on the young Enrico Caruso. If his mother hadn't encouraged him, who knows if he would have become the world-famous tenor he was.
Or Charles Dickens. that pivotal moment when one of his stories was accepted and praised. It changed the course of his life.
B.F. Skinner's work on reinforcement, emphasizing rewards over punishments, it aligns with this principle. And John Ringelspaugh, improving his children's behavior by shifting from yelling to praise. It's a shifting perspective that can have profound results.
And Georgette LeBlanc, giving Marie the dishwasher that reputation to live up to, and Bill Parker turning around that rejection at the food market by praising the manager's excellent store. Dr. Fitzhugh's charwoman exceeding expectations after being complimented. Mrs. Hopkins tackling the Tommy problem by framing him as a leader. All examples of the power of positive reinforcement.
Wow, that's a lot of examples.
And then there's Josephine Dillon, the bridge teacher, encouraging Culbertson to pursue bridge professionally, recognizing his talent, and Clarence M. Jones helping his son overcome his learning difficulties through encouragement. It's about seeing the potential in others and nurturing it.
Okay, principle number 7. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. It's about setting a high bar and giving people the confidence to reach for it.
And principle number 8 is use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct. It's about framing challenges in a way that feels manageable, empowering.
Okay, and finally, principle number 9. Make the other person glad to do what you want. Woodrow Wilson, sending Colonel House instead of William Jennings Bryan to Europe, making Bryan feel valued while achieving his own goals.
Gail Ferrier, motivating his son to pick up pears by turning it into a game with rewards and consequences. Napoleon's use of titles and recognition, appealing to people's desire for status and achievement.
Mrs. Ernest Gent, solving her lawn problem by making the worst offender her detective. It's about framing requests in a way that benefits the other person.
The Dale Carnegie courses themselves, they're all about developing these skills, addressing that need for practical guidance in human relations. And Patrick J. O'Hare, transforming from a discouraged truck salesman to a successful, confident individual.
It's a testament to the power of these principles, isn't it?
It really is. So, looking back at everything we've discussed, what's the key takeaway for you?
It's the recurring theme of empathy, really trying to see things from the other person's perspective. It seems like the foundation for effective communication and building strong relationships. What about you?
For me, it's how relevant these principles remain. Carnegie wrote this almost a century ago, yet it's still so applicable to our lives today.
That's the beauty of focusing on human nature, right? It transcends time and specific situations.
Absolutely. So, for you, our listener, what resonates with you? What's one principle you might try to apply in your own life?
Carnegie's work is a reminder that genuine interest in others, coupled with empathy and a focus on their perspectives, it's the key to building strong relationships and navigating this complex world. What are your experiences with these principles? What works for you? What doesn't? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And if you found this deep dive valuable, consider sharing it with someone who might also benefit. Your engagement helps us explore these topics.
Thanks for listening to the Book Review Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. See you next time.